Okay, some rugby league news, and it involves James Maloney. Over the weekend, it was announced that James Maloney, who's currently playing in the French top flight in rugby league for FC Lezignan in the Elite One Championship, as it's known, which is a semi-professional league. He's obviously one of the marquee players. Had failed a drugs test for a banned substance earlier today. That transpired to be cocaine. Now, his club had stood him down with immediate effect following the positive result. He's not suspended officially by the French doping agency as of yet. That's pending an investigation. Of course, got to give a B sample, but that's career over. That is career over. He's 35. Obviously, he had a good spell at the XIII Dragons. Obviously, won the grand final in the NRL with the Sharks and the Roosters. So he's a two-time NRL Premiership winner. He's played in the Super League Grand Final with the XIII Dragons. He's been a rep player for New South Wales in City Country as well as New South Wales Blues in Origin. He's also played for Australia. This is yet another high-profile player who has failed a drugs test with cocaine in their system. And Rugby League has got to stop burying its head in the sand. Since 2017, I can count on both hands. Now we're talking about 8-9 players who have been caught either in possession of cocaine, caught using in the act, or failed on a drugs test. Now, in the off-season, we had 3 players in the space a handful of days getting, embroiled, with scandal. Reece Walsh at the Warriors, arrested outside a nightclub, and of course Cameron Munster and Brandon Smith in a hotel room caught on video camera. In years past, Zach Hardacre, caught by the testers. Ranky Chase, his career was ended, caught by the testers. Kevin Proctor and Jesse Bromwich, caught by the police in a nightclub in an undercover sting. And Sean Kennedale. There was a few others as well, lesser known players. And now, James Maloney. So, FC Lezignan in France have suspended him until further notice. He's been stood down indefinitely. And I don't know. I don't know where rugby league goes from here, because this is not an isolated incident. This is a sport that is burying its head in the sand. And look, we can discuss the pros and cons of legalisation, criminalisation, prohibition, taking it off the ban list, till the sun goes down. But at the moment, a recreational drug like cocaine is on the banned list. Players know this. Now, whether obviously he's playing in the French top flight, which is similar to the Rugby League Championship here in England, or reserve grade in Australia, it's semi-professional. A few marquee players, a few full-timers play there per team. He's one of the marquee overseas signings. Whether they've got a more laissez-faire, relaxed attitude, because it's not as high a level as the Super League and the NRL, maybe, but there's clearly a culture issue. And this is not isolated. The sport has a problem. The sport has a problem with alcohol abuse and alcohol-related incidents. There's obviously issues with various trials that current and ex-players have faced in courts of law for various offences, with some serious consequences if found guilty. And recreational drug use is a problem. And a big part of the reason why Mitchell Pearce went to Catalan was because of Ginny Maloney. Big part of the reason that Mitchell Pearce went over there to try his hand in the Super League. But it does raise questions about the culture of French Rugby League at a time when they're trying to massively, grow the sport with Toulouse and Catalan in the Super League and hosting the next World Cup after this one. So it raises the question mark over the culture within the French system and the French game. It raises questions of the culture within rugby league in general. And it's another high-profile player. And until the NRL, the Super League, and the French League, and the other semi-professional and professional leagues around the world to stop burying their head in the sand and actually admit that the problem is bigger than they would like. This is not isolated, as I say. And this is at a time when rugby league has had a lot of negative headlines over recent years. A lot of negative headlines with player misbehaviour. And we've currently got, The Jared Haynes situation, what happened with Jack DeBellin, Tristan Saylor on trial. One of the Burgess brothers, two of the four Burgess brothers have faced various trials and legal issues. This really does raise a question about the culture within the sport, the culture towards women, the issues with alcohol, and the issues with recreational drug use. And these issues keep coming up every season, be it in season or off season. It's never quiet. There's always some sort. You've got Payne Haas and Albert Kelly getting internally suspended by the Broncos for their punch up outside a hotel in New South Wales. Payne Haas is already on a good behaviour bond with the New South Wales courts and police for threatening behaviour. We've had, a whole host of high-profile incidents, and the sport does not seem to learn from them. But this is career over for Jimmy Maloney. His career's done. His contract's up in June. He's 35. If he gets a 2-year ban, he'd be 37. He's done. He's done as a professional. And how does he want his career remembered? A 2-time Premiership winner in the NRL, a grand finalist in the Super League, a State of Origin rep, an Australian rep, class player. I really like what Jimmy Maloney, brings to the field, brings to a team. Big fan of his style of play. But I cannot condone as the fact he's a role model, and it's a privileged position to be a professional athlete, not a right, it's a privilege. I have no sympathy for when they get caught, because they are in a privileged position and they know the rules. And until the French doping authorities decide what course of action to take, they could backdate his suspension. He's done, and he's let himself down. He's let his teammates down. He's let the sport down. I don't know what else to say, quite frankly. But it's a sad day for French Rugby League at a time when they're trying to massively grow the sport. It's a big negative because he's a high-profile player. Admittedly, towards the end of his career, and he's winding down his career, admittedly, but it doesn't matter. High-profile player. And it's just another dark stain upon the sport, which it doesn't need. But in my opinion, and from what I've seen, Rugby League is burying its head in the sand year after year. Same incidents keep happening. This is not isolated. This is not just Jimmy Maloney being a bit of a tit. This is a much deeper problem within the sport of rugby league. Well, that's my view on it. Thank you very much for watching. Please place your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.